Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, Text 29. We've been coming together every day to read Srimad Bhagavatam during this wonderful nectarian time of lockdown. And today we're reading from text number 29. This is spoken by Mother Devahuti to her illustrious son, Kapila Dev. Very interesting verse. Yo yo go bhagavad bano nirvanatmatmascha yodita kidrisa kati changani yatastat-vava-bodhanam. The mystic yoga system, as you have explained, aims at the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is meant for completely ending material existence. Please let me know the nature of that yoga system. How many ways are there by which one can understand in truth that sublime yoga? Srila Prabhupada has written in his purport, there are different kinds of mystic yoga systems aiming for different phases of the absolute truth. The Jnana Yoga system aims at the impersonal Brahman effulgence, and the Hatha Yoga system aims at the localized personal aspect, the Paramatma feature of the absolute truth. Whereas Bhakti Yoga, or devotional service, which is executed in 9 different ways, both headed by hearing and chanting, aims at complete realization of the Supreme Lord. There are different methods of self-realization, but here Devahuti especially refers to the Bhakti Yoga system, which has already been primarily explained by the Lord. The different parts of the Bhakti Yoga system are hearing, chanting, remembering, offering prayers, worshiping the Lord in the temple, accepting service to Him, carrying out His orders, making friendship with Him, and ultimately surrendering everything for the service of the Lord. The word nirvatmanam is very significant in this verse. Unless one accepts the process of devotional service, one cannot end the continuation of material existence. Excuse me. As far as Jnanis are concerned, they are interested in Jnana Yoga. But even if one elevates oneself after a great performance of austerity to the Brahman effulgence, there is a chance of falling down again to the material world. Therefore, Jnana Yoga does not actually end material existence. Similarly, regarding the Hatha Yoga system, which aims at the localized aspect of the Lord, Paramatma, it has been experienced that many yogis, such as Vishwamitra, fall down. But bhakti yogis, once approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead, never come back to this material world. As it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, yad gatva na nivartante. Upon going, one never comes back. Tyaktva deham punar janmanaiti. After giving up this body, he never comes back again to accept a material body. Nirvana does not finish the existence of the soul. Nirvana does not finish the existence of the soul. The soul is ever existing. Therefore, nirvana means to end one's material existence, and to end material existence means to go back home, back to Godhead. Sometimes it is asked how the living entity falls down from the spiritual world to the material world. Here is the answer. Unless one is elevated to the Vaikuntha planets, directly in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is prone to fall down, either from the impersonal Brahman realization or from an ecstatic trance of meditation. Another word in this verse, Bhagavad Bhana, is significant. Bhana means arrow. The Bhakti Yoga system is just like an arrow aiming up to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Bhakti Yoga system never urges one towards the impersonal Brahman effulgence or to the point of Paramatma realization, this bana or arrow is so sharp and swift that it goes directly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, penetrating the regions of impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma. Gora Graganya Gana Gocha Goloruharam Goranga Gudatama Gopyata Kopa Briksham Gopalagada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavaram Satatam Namami Panchakopatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nice to see all the devotees here. I think Achyutananda Prabhu in Hungary is also watching. And Lynn, nice to see you. This is actually a very good verse for your question today. I'm sorry I haven't had time yet to write you back. Madhupati Prabhu is also here. This verse speaks about many different topics. I'd like to focus on one, which I find to be such an overwhelmingly vast topic that I hope we'll be able to finish today. We'd like to speak about the one-pointed arrow of Gaura Bhakti. Now, when we speak about Gaura Bhakti, Gaura devotion, it doesn't just mean bhakti to Gaura, it means the bhakti that he comes and he gives. And Gaura-līlā is completely one-pointed. In this verse, the word bana means arrow. Bano means arrow. And the verse describes Mother Devahuti saying that Bhagavat Bhana. I want to know what is that yoga process, Yoga Bhagavat Bhana, which aims at the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada says many, many different things in the purport, many interesting things, including the fall down of the jiva from the spiritual world, including a real meaning of nirvana, and how nirvana doesn't indicate the existence, doesn't finish the existence of the soul, because the soul is ever existing. Many, many different points are here, but I want to focus on this phrase, Bhagavad Bhana, how the Bhakti Yoga system, as Prabhupada writes in his purport, is just like an arrow aiming up to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, in Gaura-līlā, it's an amazing thing. In Gaura-līlā, the arrow, the archer, and the target all become one. They're no different in Gaura-līlā. Now, what does that mean? And how, most importantly, does that relate to all of us? Oh, this is such a big topic. We should understand something about what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give. Our acharyas have repeatedly spoken about this. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the 4th verse of the Adi Lila, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes Anarpita chirim chirat karuna avatirna kalo samarpayitam anujvala rasam swabhakti sriyam. Anarpita means not given. Arpita means to give something, accept. And charim, chirat means for a long time. Anarpita chirim chirat. This is something that had not been given a very long, long time. But Mahaprabhu Samarparitam came to give this, and what was it that he came to give? Unnata Ujjvala Rasam Swabhakti Sriyam. It's a very, very big topic. This Unnata Ujjvala Rasa, this very elevated conjugal mellow, because there's different ways to interact with the Lord, but the topmost love for the Lord is that conjugal mellow that the gopis have. But this is not just unnata ujjala rasa. This is unnata ujjala rasa swabhakti shriyam. It's swabhakti. It's his own bhakti. Shriya. And Shriya means the treasure. Shriya also means the essence of that. So when we read this verse spoken by Mother Devahuti, we can look at it in different levels. Today, I'd like to try to meditate on this verse in terms of Gaura-līlā and our own relevant position and how this Bhagavad Bhana, this arrow, this one-pointed arrow of Gaura-līlā, and what does that mean? And what is it, this tremendous significance of that? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has both an internal, an icha, an internal purpose, as well as a gona icha, or a secondary desire. This is described in Adi-lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prema rasa niryasa korite aswadana, raga marga bhakti loki korite pracharna, rasika shekara Krishna parama karuna, e dui hetu hoite ichara ugama. He had two desires to appear. One was that he wanted to, his internal purpose and his external purpose. His external purpose was that he wanted to give Ragamaga Bhakti. He wanted to give ecstatic love to the world. But his internal purpose was Prema Rasa Niryasa. He wanted Korite Asvadana. Asvadana means to taste. He wanted to come to taste the essence of devotional love. And therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't come as an incarnation. And this is something which is a little hard sometimes for devotees to get their head around. Jagadananda Pandit has described in his Prema Vivarta, Kali Yuga Sadhu Paiva Dushkara Janiya, Sadhu Guru Rupe Krishna Aila Nadiya. Understanding that in Kali Yuga, it'll be very difficult to find a sadhu guru, someone who has good character. Such a very, very difficult thing. And we find even today, there are many so-called bhaktas, so-called devotees, and some of them seem very advanced, and they quote Govinda Lilamrita and this and that. But if you study their character is not very nice. So understanding that in Kali Yuga, it'll be very difficult to find someone who actually practices what he preaches, Krishna himself took birth in Navadvip to show the dealings of a real, genuine sadhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't come to propagate the chanting of his name. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, he tells the devotees, Jadi ama pratisneha taki sabakar, tabe Krishna vyati rikta gnagai deyar. It's one of the first verses my Guru Maharaj quoted when I was hearing from him, and he spoke this verse to me. He said, this verse means, Jadi ama pratisneha. Mahaprabhu says, if you love me, then you follow my instructions. And my name at that time was Nityananda Das. And Guru Maharaj, he stopped the class and he looked at me and he says, Nityananda, if you love me, love my instructions. Mahaprabhu says, if you love me, love my instructions. And what is my instruction? Tabe Krishna Vyati Rikta Naga Ibayar. Don't chant my name. Nityananda Prabhu never came to say, chant my name. It's nice to chant the name of Nityananda Prabhu, but there's something deeper than that. He said, if you love me, then you love my instructions. You may love someone and you think, oh, I'm going to glorify them to everybody. But if that person is very shy, maybe they don't like to be glorified, that's not real service. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come, it is described in the 14th verse of the Adi-lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, as Bhakti Rup, in the mood of a devotee. And so he hasn't come to get people to speak about him. He hasn't come to get people to chant his name. He said, if you love me, you chant the names of Krishna. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the mood of Radha. And in the mood of Radha, he gives something more. And therefore, he's Mahavadanyaya avatar. He's not just come to give some religion. He's not just come to present himself as Bhagavan and to give his name, nor is Nityananda Prabhu done like that. They've come to relish being servants of Srimati Radharani. And as servants of Srimati Radharani, the best way to please them, the best way to get their mercy is not by chanting their names. Rather, it's by chanting the names of Krishna. Tabi Krishna Vyakti Naga Ibiyar. Mahaprabhu said, don't chant my name. Just chant the name of Krishna. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada has written in his purport in Adi-lila chapter 4, text 41. Srup Damodar Goswami has described Lord Chaitanya as Krishna himself with the attitude of Radharani, or a combination of Radha and Krishna. His intention is to taste Krishna's sweetness and transcendental love. Lord Chaitanya does not care to think of himself as Krishna because he wants the position of Radharani. We should remember this. Again, in his purport to Adi-lila, chapter 14, text 14, Srila Prabhupada comments, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that the purport of the word abhiman, or self-conception, is that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thought himself to be in the position of Srimati Radharani and was always ready to render service in that way. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, he assumed the complexion and emotions of Srimati Radharani and remained in that status. He never assumed the complexion or status of Krishna. Of course, Krishna wanted to experience the role of Srimati Radharani. That is the original cause of his assuming the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, pure Vaishnavas never disturb Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's conception of being Srimati Radharani. It's a very nice thing to chant the names of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Vaishnavas sometimes do. Sometimes the Vaishnavas chant the names of Srimati Radharani, but primarily we chant the names of Krishna. It's a very, very big topic. In different ages, kirtan is given. It's not just that kirtan is only given in Kali Yuga. Kirtan is given in every age. Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes this in his introduction to Krishna Samhita. He says that the holy names to deliver one in such a yuga were Narayana Paraveda, Narayana Parakshara, Narayana Para Mukti, Narayana Paragati. Different names of Lord Narayan. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the purport of this verse is that Lord Narayan is the ultimate goal. And it's described by him that Shantaras and a little Dasyaras is found at this stage. These verses mostly promote the mood of awe and reverence in a relationship that's not so intimate. A little bit of servitorship, but not such an intimate thing. In Bhakti, we want full relationship. And then Bhaktivinoda goes on to describe the holy names in Treta Yuga. Rama Narayana Hanta Mukunda Madhusudana Krishna Keshava Kamsare Hare Vaikuntha Vamana. He says these verses indicate the prowess, the power of Lord Narayan. And at this stage, there's full dasyaras, full servitorship, and a reflection of sakyaras. Sakyaras means the relationship of friendship. There's a reflection of sakyaras there in Treta Yuga in these names. And then he gives the names that were chanted in Dwapara Yuga. Hare Murare Madhu Kaita Bhare Gopala Govinda Mukunda Shore Yagesha Narayana Krishna Vishnu Virashrayamam Jagadisha Raksha. Again, different names of Krishna. And he says that in this verse, there's prominence of Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, and Vatsalya rasas. But there's 5 different relationships, the topmost of which being the conjugal mellow. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that in this mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. These, he says, are the topmost sweet names of the Lord. And he says this is a mantra for persons who are on the path of Madhurya Ras. This is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give. Now a question may arise, if the holy name was given in previous ages, why don't we hear about it? Why weren't they chanting? The 6th canto, chapter 3, text 25 of Srimad Bhagavatam addresses this point. Prayena vedatadidam namahajanoyam devya vimohita matir bhatamayayalam trayam jari krita matir madhupushpitayam vaitani ke mahati karmani yujamana. He says, Shukadeva Goswami says, because they were bewildered. There were so many rishis, and although they knew that the holy name was there, but they couldn't appreciate it because they were thinking, oh, twisting your fingers is more important. They were thinking Vanashram Dharma was more important. They were thinking to do some homa, that's really high class, that's really cool. Or perhaps they were thinking to do chant some Nishinga Kavacha, that's more high class. Or perhaps they were thinking, the verse describes, that they wanted liberation, and they were focused on that. And because of that, they weren't attracted to the Sankirtan movement. They were more interested in Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, or religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, religious sense gratification, and Moksha, or liberation. But Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, when he begins to speak about the path of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that path of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a real Bhagavad Bhana, the real arrow, one-pointed arrow to the Lord. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's path is different. Although Nam Sankirtan was present before, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did something more. He was practicing Prema Nam Sankirtan. There's an adjective before Sankirtan. It's Premanam Sankirtan. And in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we're not interested in liberation. Rupa Goswami, the great devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who gave us Mahaprabhu's teachings in the concise form of his books, in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-2, 225, he says a very interesting thing. He quotes the Adi Purana. Mama nama sada grahi, mama seva priya sada, bhaktis tasmai pradatavya, natu mukti kadachana. Krishna is speaking in the Adi Purana. He says, I give bhakti and never liberation to the person who's always engaged in chanting my name and serving me as a goal in his life. Rupa Goswami is giving us for a reason. Because he's speaking, he's trying to help us to understand the glory of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's path and how that path is a real Bhagavad Bhanta, the real arrow. Such an amazing thing. The arrow in this process is the holy name. But the archer in this process is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he's none different from his name. And the target is also himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is really Bhagavad Bhanta, the arrow-like path of bhakti. This only occurs in the path of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where the archer, the arrow, and the target are all the same. The archer is Krishna. He's come in the mood of a devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he's chanting his own names. That's the arrow. And the goal, the target, is himself. So the archer, the arrow, and the target have all become one. And therefore Rupa Goswami says that in this Bhagavad Bhanta, this path of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we don't care about liberation. So much so that Krishna says in Adi Purana, and Rupa Goswami is giving us a hint to the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he says that Mama Nama Sadagrahi, someone who's chanting my names, Mama Seva Priya Sada, who has so much affection to serving me, Bhaktis Tasmai Padada Vyat, not to Mukti Kadachana, not to Mukti Kadachana. I don't give them liberation. Rather, I give them devotion. And in the next verse, he quotes a Padma Purana, which says a very astonishing thing. Yena Janma Sahasrani Vasudevo Nishevita Tanmuke Harinamani Sada Tishtanti Bharata. In the Padma Purana it is said that the names of the Lord remain constantly in the mouth of that person who serves Vasudeva for 1,000 births. Well, let's think about that for a moment. Someone serving the Lord for 1,000 births, and they're chanting the names of the Lord for 1,000 births, and they don't get liberation? Or maybe there's something wrong with this process. It's a very, very deep point. Jiva Goswami explains in his commentary, Jena Janniti Ita Drashyapyasya Puna Punar Janma Samutkanta Moya Bhakti Vardhanartam Parameshvare Chayeva Geyam. He says that what this verse means is that Krishna, when he sees someone is very sincere, he makes him take birth over and over again. When he sees that someone is chanting his holy names, so he'll make them take birth over and over again until they get it right, until they get bhakti. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't come just to give liberation. Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kami mama janmani janmanishvare bhavatad bhaktir hoitiki tvai. He said, Mama janmani janmanishvare, my Lord, I don't care. Service is so wonderful. Chanting your name is so wonderful. I don't desire liberation. This is the mood of Srimati Radharani. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give something very special. Seidvare achandale kirtana sanchare nama prema malaganti parail samsare. In Mahaprabhu's kirtan, it was something different. He made a garland. And in this garland, he did something which had never been done before. Anarpita chirim chirat, or at least hadn't been done in a very, very long time. That he made a combination of the holy name and prem. This is Bhagavad Bhana. This is the one-pointed arrow of Gaura Bhajan, where the archer, the arrow, and the target become one. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in the mood of a devotee. He generally is known as Priti Vishroy, or the object of love. But now he's come as Priti Ashroy, or the abode of love. And he's saying, although Krishna comes and says, chant my name, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he comes and says, don't chant my name. Because he's come in the mood of a devotee. And when we serve him in the mood of a devotee, we get something astonishing. And therefore he's Mahavadanyaya avatar. He's even more merciful than Krishna himself, if we please him. And so he came, and the kirtan that he gave, there was already kirtan in Satya Yuga, and Treta Yuga, and Dwapara Yuga. But this kirtan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a special kirtan. He made a combination of the holy name and prema. It's Premanam Sankirtan. Nama prema mala ghanti paraila samsare. He put a garland of this over the entire material world. And say dwari achandali kirtana sanchari. He gave it even to the untouchables. It's such an astonishing thing. And other processes we hear about, you have to become very, very qualified before you can enter into the pastimes of the Lord. Sometimes we were speaking today, the devotees are very sentimental. And they say, yes, they left their body and now they're with Srila Prabhupada. And now they're with Krishna. That's very nice. That's very encouraging. But is it really true? Is it such a cheap thing? Our Shastra and our Acharyas have described that for someone to go back to the spiritual world, generally we don't go back straight away. But someone will take birth and may take birth again and again and again until they get it right. And then when they get it right, when they come to the platform of Bhav Bhakti and they far, far surpassed Anartha Nibriti and Ruchi, they've come to the platform of Bhav Bhakti, and then they come to the platform of Prem Bhakti. Then they begin to realize this root. Still they have to take birth in the material world, in Krishna Lila, where it's going on today. But Gaura-līlā is something different. And therefore, this is a real Bhagavad Bhana, with a real arrow. It's described in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Adyapiha Chaitanya Shabalila Kore Jakane Jahari Kore Drishtiyari Kare. That right now, right here in this place, Sridham Mayapur, but not just in Sridham Mayapur, also in New Delhi. And not just in New Delhi, but also in London, also in New York, even a very remote place known as Ypsilanti, or in Hungary. Gaura-līlā is going on today. It's going on right now. And all of his pastimes, Eshabalila Kori, are going on. And someone who's very fortunate can see them. But there's something even more astonishing about Gaura-līlā, and how Gaura-līlā is Bhagavad Bhana, or how Gaura-līlā is the real essence of this arrow of the Bhakti Yoga system, because now the archer has become the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the mood of Srimati Radharani. And the arrow is his own name, and the target is himself. Srila Prabhupada describes in his purport to Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 11, text 89. He says some very astonishing things. Please listen. He says, one who is intelligent understands that all the personal associates and devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are ever liberated. This means that because they are always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, they do not belong to this material world. One who is engaged in the Lord's devotional service 24 hours daily and never forgets the Lord is called Nitya Siddha. A little later in the purport, Prabhupada describes, a devotee is always thinking of how to better serve Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and how to broadcast his name, fame, and qualities throughout the world. One who is Nitya Siddha has no business other than broadcasting the glories of the Lord all over the world according to his ability. Such people are already associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur says, Nitya Siddha Korimani. One should not think that because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally present 500 years ago, only his associates were liberated. Rather, Srila Narottam Das Thakur says that anyone is a Nitya Siddha if he acts on behalf of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by spreading the glories of the holy name of the Lord. We should respect those devotees preaching the glories of the Lord as Nitya Siddha and should not consider them conditioned. This is a very, very astonishing thing. This is the real Bhagavad Bhana, or the real arrow of the Bhakti Yoga system, which is one-pointed Previously, it wasn't really one-pointed until Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came as the archer himself and took up the arrow of his own name and to shoot at the target of himself. And it's such an amazing process. This is the most one-pointed process, because in other processes, even when someone's chanting the holy name, they may have to wait for many, many births before they get liberated. But in this process, someone's liberated as soon as they begin to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They're already an associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and therefore, Adya Piha Chaitanya Eshabalila Kori Jakani Jahari Kori Drishti Adhikari. His pastimes are going on right now, and anyone who's preaching those pastimes, who's preaching his glories, they're Nitya Siddha. They're already an associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is a real Bhagavad Bana, the real arrow of bhakti. Now, how is that? It's an inconceivable thing. But because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the goal of the arrow, now he's become the archer also, because he's in the mood of a devotee. Sometimes people, they say that we should chant the names of Nityananda, we should chant the names of Radha, we should chant the names of Gaura. It's a better program. But Jagadananda Pandit says, please excuse me, Gaurara ami, muke bolila na chale, Gaurara achara, Gaurara vichara, Gaurara loile fala fale. That person who jumps up and down and says, I am a devotee of Nityananda, I am a devotee of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu says, I don't know who he is. He's not really my devotee. But the devotee who follows the orders of Mahaprabhu and does the prachar of Mahaprabhu, he's a real devotee of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. The story is there that once, supposedly, some devotees came to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and said, Guru Maharaj, you have one disciple living here at Radhakund. He's become so advanced, he stopped chanting Krishna Nam. He's so advanced, he stopped chanting Krishna's name. And now he just chants Radhe, 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 day and night. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, according to the story we've heard, gave a reply. He said, oh, that's very amazing. Do you know what the result will be if someone chants the name of Radhe, Radhe? And he quoted a verse from the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, chapter 15. Rashabdam krivate trasto dadami bhaktimutamam dashabdam krivata paschad yami shravana lobhata. He says, when someone calls out the syllable Ra, then immediately, Dadami Bhakti, I give them Bhakti. And then when I hear the second syllable Da, I come running after that person. I can't keep away from them. Such an amazing thing if you chant the name Radha. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, we have a better program. We chant the name Krishna. And when we chant the name Krishna, someone else comes running. Krishna nama gane bharadika charana pai Radha nama gane Krishna Chandra Sangshepe kahila kata gucha manera vyata dukkha moya anya kata dvanva. Narottam Das Thakur explains in his Prem Bhakti Chandrika that by chanting Krishna's name, chanting Radha's name, then I'll attract Krishna. But by chanting Krishna's name, I'll attract Radha. And this is the mood of Gaura Bhajan. This is the secret of Gaura Bhajan. Gaura Bhajan means when the archer, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, now he's come in the mood of his devotee. The archer is really Radharani, because the archer, Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is in the mood of Radharani. And she knows how to shoot that arrow. Gauranga Mahaprabhu, being in the mood of Radha, gives far, far more when we chant the names of Krishna than when we chant the names of Gaura or even Nityananda. Therefore it's said, by Jan Chandra Goswami. Vina Radha Prasadena Krishna Praptina Jayate Tatashi Radhika Krishna Smaraniyo Susamyuto. That without pleasing Radharani, you can't get Krishna. And Radharani is not pleased when we chant her name. It's not that the gopis are going to the kunj and saying, Radhe, 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 Radhe. And Radharani is saying, what are you doing? Stop that. Chant the name Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told the devotees, Jadiyamas pratisnehataki sabakar tabi Krishna vyatirikta nagabhiyar. If you really love me, you follow my instruction. Don't chant my names. Chant the names of Krishna. So because he's in the mood of Radha. And Jan Chandra Goswami describes Vina Radha Prasadina. Without the mercy of Radha, Krishna Praptina Jayate. You can't get Krishna. So this is real Bhagavad Bhana, the real arrow to get Krishna. The real arrow is fired by Srimati Radharani. And unless we take up her, we try to serve her and take up her mood, we can't get Krishna. And this is Unnata Ujvala Rasa Swabhakti Shriyam. This is Swabhakti, his own bhakti, because it's in the mood of Srimati Radharani. This is the most astonishing thing, this path of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And the amazing thing is that those devotees who engage in the service of Gauranga Mahaprabhu through Gauranga Mahaprabhu's devotees, to the Gurudev, they get the same thing. The same thing that Gauranga Mahaprabhu is giving. They don't just get some religion or some quick liberation, which someone may get, even by chanting the names of Gaura Nitai. Very wonderful thing. But they get this Unnata Ujvala Rasa Swabhakti Shriyam. They get the essential essence of that Swabhakti Shriyam, which is a very big, very confidential thing. I don't want to describe much more of it in this public class. But there's a lot more to be said, and some devotees understand this point. For those who do, they can appreciate that. So our bhajan is not to chant the names of Gaura. Our bhajan is not to chant the name of Gurudev. Rather, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Tate Krishna bhaje, kore gururu sevan. That our bhajan, our service to Gurudev, is Krishna bhajan. And by chanting the names of Krishna, we please Gurudev. In Gopal Champu, Jiva Goswami describes 7 different types of persons who bring pain to the heart. And the 4th category is Shrita Guru Nahasrasita, someone who takes shelter of Gurudev, but not of Krishna. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come, Sadhu Guru Paila, Nadi, he's come in Navadvip to be a guru. And he wants us to take shelter of Krishna. He's come as the archer, as the arrow, and as the target. And we have to understand this. So this name of Krishna gives us everything. And those persons who serve their Gurudev, they enter into Gaura-līlā. What is Gaura-līlā? Gaura-līlā means Radha Bhava Duti Suvali Tam Nomi Krishna Srupam. Can you get my power cord and everything? I'm going to die soon. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the mood of Radha. And what is the mood of Radha? She's always wanting to see Krishna. And what is the mood of Radharani's associates? They're always chanting Krishna Nam to give her pleasure. And those same associates come in Gaura-līlā as Swarup Damodar, Roy Ramananda. They're Lalita and Vishaka Sakhis. And they're helping Radharani to taste that Krishna is present. They're helping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to taste the mood of Radha. It's an amazing thing. The power's not on?
No, it's just more comfortable.
Will it work from there? Okay, I think so. So we're trying to plug in our computer because it's about to die. In the Chaitanya Bhagavad, it's said by Mahaprabhu, Janma Janma Tomara Paile Mora Sangha Toma Sabhara Britye Odeki Be Mora Ranga. Mahaprabhu told the devotees, you have my association birth after birth, and even all your servants will see my pastimes. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati comments in his purport, when the Lord performs his pastimes in this world, his associates come with him and engage in his service. Persons who are counted as servants of those associates also receive the opportunity to realize those pastimes of the Lord. So this is the astonishing nature of Gaura-līlā. This is a real Bhagavad Bhana it's working. The real one-pointed arrow of Bhakti. The ultimate one-pointed arrow of Bhakti. That Gaura has come in the mood of Radha. And those devotees who don't chant his name or even the name of Nityananda, which is very wonderful and very pious and we should encourage everyone to do, but when they chant the name of Krishna to try to please Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they get something very, very deep. Unnata ujjala rasa swabhakti shriyam. They get that swabhakti, that bhakti that he himself has, which means the bhakti is Srimati Radharani, which means that, in an astonishing way, those devotees, even though they're still in this material world, when they're assisting Gaura-līlā, they're already in Gaura-līlā. Just as Srimati Radharani, her gopi associates, they come around her and they chant the names of Krishna, the same pastime takes place in Gaura-līlā. And just as in Krishna Lila, the gopis, they're trying to engage other gopis to chant the names of Krishna, to pacify the feelings of Radharani's separation. And so also, in Gaura-līlā, the associates of Mahaprabhu, who are his eternal associates, gopi parishads, in the spiritual world, Lalita and Vishaka, Srup Damodar and Roy Ramananda, they're engaging their associates in the same kirtan. And their associates are engaging their associates, who are engaging their associates. And this is the kirtan of our sampradaya. And it's an amazing thing. When we engage in this kirtan, when we assist the kirtan of Mahaprabhu, then you're entering into Gaura-līlā now. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada says, such persons are already Nitya Siddha. It's an astonishing thing. This is real Bhagavad Bhana, the real one-pointed arrow of bhakti. Prior to the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when all the other manifestations of the Lord are there, it's not real Bhagavad Bhana. It's not the real one-pointed arrow. Until Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes in the mood of Radha. Krishna himself in the Gita, he says, Vyavasyatmika buddhi ekeha kudu nandana bahusaka hyanantasya buddhaya vyavisayinam. That on this path you should be one-pointed. And those persons who are bahusaka, buddhaya vyavisayinam, they don't become focused. They don't get samadhi. So Srimati Radharani, she's Vyavasyatmika buddhi, ekeha kudana. She's ekeha. She's one-pointed. But Krishna's bahusaka. He's multi-branched because he's dealing with so many, many different devotees. Every person in the world. Krishna's reciprocating with the devotees of Lord Ramachandra, with the devotees of Lord Narayan. He's reciprocating with the bhaktas of Hanuman and Ramachandra. He's reciprocating with the Christians and the Muslims and the Buddhists and the atheists. He's reciprocating with everyone. He's not one-pointed. And so it's not real Bhagavad Bhanta. It's not really the one-pointed arrow of bhakti, which Devahuti is speaking about in this verse. Until Krishna himself comes in the mood of his greatest devotee, Srimati Radharani, it's not really Bhagavad Bhana. Not really the one-pointed arrow. So only in Gaura-līlā does it become really fulfilling this term Bhagavad Bhana. In Gaura-līlā, it's when the arrow, the archer, and the target all become one. So I think I pretty much finished the points I wanted to say. It's a very deep, very subtle thing. Many devotees listening today, I appreciate that. I hope you can understand something. Hare Krishna, Lynn, thank you for listening today. I don't know how much you could understand of all this. Ramana Sukha Prabhu said, can we think of Lord Chaitanya as an avatar of Srimati Radhika? It's described by our acharyas that we should think of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Shri Krishna, Chaitanya, Radha, Krishna, Nahi, Anya. That he's Krishna, Nomi Krishna Sarupam, but Radha Bhava Dhyuti Sivalitam. He's a combined incarnation. He's come in the mood of Radha, and the mood of Radha is predominant in Gaura. And so in some ways we think of Mahaprabhu more as Radha. Subal Sham Mahendra Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Advaita Chandrababu, nice to see you. Mahendrababu was appreciating, thanks for the sweet Gaura-kata, because he's heard nice Gaura-kata from his father and from our Guru Maharaj. And Lynn has asked, are you explaining that this level of bhakti devotion is synonymous with liberation because they're free of the material world through their pure devotion? Yes, that's one way to put it. Actually, it's not exactly synonymous with liberation. It's far, far, far beyond liberation. And how to understand that is very, very inconceivable. I'll just say that much. It's very difficult to understand. Because of their pure devotion, because they're in contact with Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Very nice comment, Lynn. Thank you. You're a very thoughtful person. Aradhika Radha has said, why the Maha Mantra is not often mentioned in the Vedic scriptures? Are there many places where the Hare Krishna mantra is mentioned? It's mentioned in a number of Puranas, but many times something which is confidential is kept a little secret. And our acharyas have said, look, for the same reason, sometimes this Maha Mantra is kept secret. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra indicates this Madhurya Ras. Aradhika Radha goes on, I was thinking, what was the reason for Lord Chaitanya being angry with his devotees when he heard them chanting his names? It's amazing to understand why Lord Chaitanya did not want the devotees to chant his names, because he was in the mood of Srimati Radharani. He wanted Krishna to be glorified. Thank you, Aradhika Radha. This is a very confidential thing. This is not just a matter of religion or following rituals and rules and becoming pious and getting liberation. That's nice. We respect all those things. But this is a matter of understanding Gauranga Mahaprabhu in his mood of being in the mood of Srimati Radharani. It's a very, very astonishing thing. My Guru Maharaj spoke so much about this. And Lynn, I don't know what you think of all this, but she says, thank you so much. I feel like I've just enjoyed a bountiful, nutritious feast. Lynn, for those of you who don't know, she's been practicing bhakti, she told me recently, for 2 whole months. And she's not used to a whole lot of different technical terms and things. Now, some devotees, after hearing this katha today, they may say, I don't think you should be speaking this to Lynn. Because how will someone who's only been practicing bhakti for 2 months understand this topic? Probably, maybe they won't completely, but you might be surprised. Because our purpose is not just information, but as one very pious person I was hearing from yesterday said, our purpose is wonder. Our purpose is to become astonished. We want our hearts to become astonished. And for that, we have to think. We have to consider things. We want people to be reflective. So we've gone over time today. Are there any burning questions or comments from anybody? They can say so online, or we're going to turn over the microphone to Her Grace.
I have many things to say, but I just will say burning question. So you quoted Srila Prabhupada about that anyone who is broadcasting glories of Mahaprabhu or Krishna, he is already an associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Nityasiddha, and I just try to understand it. So what does it mean? So because we can see examples when devotees, they dedicate their life to this preaching process, really dedicate, and we don't know if they know who are they in the Gaura-līlā or not, or I don't understand this point. What does it mean?
Prabhupada, first of all, Prabhupada says, one who is engaged in the Lord's devotional service 24 hours daily and never forgets the Lord is called Nityasiddha. 2 minor details. But still, it's such an astonishing point. Once Srila Prabhupada told the devotees that the meaning of Nikunja Yuno Rati Keli Sijai is preaching. That because this is the activity of the gopis are bringing other living entities to Krishna. When we do that, we're also serving the gopis, and Gurudev is doing that. And Gurudev, I don't know if my Gurudev is an eternal associate or not, because I'm not an eternal associate. I can't say. But all I can see is that my Gurudev is engaged in the service of Gauranga Mahaprabhu and Gaurangera Sangha Ghani. He's engaged in the service of Mahaprabhu's Sangha, and therefore Nityasiddha Korimani. My Gurudev is Nityasiddha because he's fully engaged in that service of the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so those persons who are engaged as assistants of those persons, maybe they're not engaged 24 hours a day, and maybe they're sometimes forgetting the Lord. They're not exactly Nityasiddha yet, but they have entered into Gaura-līlā. Entered into Gaura-līlā because they're assisting Gaura-līlā, because Gaura-līlā is going on right now. It's a very, very amazing thing. And Prabhupada gives the example of a mango. He says a green mango is also a mango, although you may say, I just want a ripe mango. And my grandmas used to say, we don't want a green mango, we want a fully ripe mango, and that's Gauranga Mahaprabhu. But that green mango will one day become a ripe mango. And so those devotees who are engaged sincerely in the service of Gauranga Mahaprabhu by serving his servants and who understand something about the very confidential nature of Mahaprabhu's movement, his mission, they're already in Gaura-līlā today. Is that okay? Is that helpful?
What does it mean to be in Gaura-līlā? So, for example,
well, there's also demons in Gaura-līlā. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that Lila Pushtikar, he says in one song, that those demons actually have a purpose. They're helping the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. The demons in Gaura-līlā are helping. So we may also be demons in Gaura-līlā. And they're helping to nourish the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, because it's such an amazing thing that even someone from Siberia can become a devotee. A place where everybody just drinks vodka and eats cow flesh, they can become a devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's amazing. That's so astonishing, isn't it? You have something else?
Just really short reflections. I mean, something what I really, really inspired by. So that you connected, how you connected this verse and this particular words Bhagavan Bana with Gaura-līlā. So it's that this statement possible only in Gaura-līlā. It's really amazing. So and when you answer it on Lin's reflection, you quoted somebody that our purpose to be wonder, to become astonished, and this is really amazing. And I connected it with when I told Krishna Kund yesterday, it was really amazing for me to hear about Brihad Bhagavatamrita yesterday, and I got such a big inspiration about this. I didn't read it yet, but I'm really, really eager to do this as soon as possible. And I also connected it with Lynn. She was hearing about the Mahaprabhu and the connection with this arrow and target, but she got some inspiration, and she eager to understand, for example. It's really, really amazing. Thank you.
Because again, this process of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's adbhuta, it's astonishing. It's not just intellectual. It's not just for collecting information. And we can have some intellectual adjustment. We can collect some facts and figures and memorize something. But let's become astonished. This person who said this thing is Mr. Rogers. A very interesting person. He was a Presbyterian minister. And he had his own television show. He's been a very, very pious person. And he was saying that our purpose, because our purpose should be wonder. And let's see if I can even find, I think I might even still have it open. Yes, he says, our society is more interested in information than wonder, in noise rather than silence. And I feel that we need a lot more wonder and a lot more silence in our lives. And when I thought, wow, this is really Gaura-līlā, this is really Mahaprabhu, that today we're so much interested in information in the form of religious facts, and we're having all this noise, but there's no reflection, there's no silence. And in our movement, what's important is wonder, is astonishment. And that's what changes the heart. And so someone may say, Lynn shouldn't be hearing this because she's only been a devotee for 2 months. But that's not our attitude. Rather, we consider that someone, first of all, who knows how many lifetimes she may have been practicing this. But our purpose is not information. Our purpose is astonishment. Aradhika Radha has gone on. I was thinking, what was the reason for Lord Chaitanya? Okay, I already read that one. I'm sorry. Let's go down. Okay, and Lynn comments finally, yes, mind blown. That's so very, very important. We want all of our minds to be blown. We want to become completely astonished. And here's a comment from Krishna Kund.
I was thinking about Yavasayatnika Buddhir Eke Hakurunandana, and I was thinking how Krishna himself, or Krishna speaking in the Bhagavad Gita, about how we should have one-pointed intelligence to practice Krishna consciousness. But in particular, I was thinking how the speaker of Bhagavad Gita is Govindaji. Srila Prabhupada explains that in Adi-lila purport, and how Govinda, Krishna in Vrindavan, he knows that only one-pointedness actually gives that full manifestation of love, that highest love. And therefore he needs to come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu later on.
Because Govinda is a devotee of his devotee.
Yes. He's a devotee of Radharani, yes. So I was thinking about that in terms of one-pointedness. And would you elaborate a little more about these 1,000 births of chanting the holy names when Krishna is particularly merciful to someone and wants them to get it right?
Okay, so that's from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And Srila Rupa Goswami is quoting, first of all, from Adi Purana, where Krishna says that if someone is chanting my names and serving me sincerely, and he says, Seva Priya Sada, they're always serving me with affection, then he says, I don't give them liberation. Why should I do that? Why not? And then in the next verse, Rupa Goswami quotes from Padma Purana, Yena Janma Sahasrani Vasudeva Nisevita Tanmukhe Harinamani Sada Tishtanti Bharata, that someone who's been chanting the holy name for thousands of births and serving the Lord. And Jiva Goswami comments that Krishna makes them take birth again and again until they become really eager. An example is given of a flower bud. If you take a rose bud, before it's fully developed and you pick it, that's it. It's finished. It's not going to develop further. So similarly, if we get liberation right away, and the example may be given of Gopakumar in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, the example given of him because he's a very astonishing example. It's not the normal course. Because Gopakumar, he went all over the place. He went to Siddhalokan, Mahalokan, Tapalokan, Janalokan, Shivalokan, Vaikuntha, and Ayodhya, and Dwarka, and so many places. The general thing is when someone goes to that first place, wow, this is it. And they'll never leave because the Lord is so attractive. But somehow, by the Lord's mercy, he made Gopakumar. He gave him some desire, and Gopakumar kept going. And so this is Gaura-līlā also.
That's by Guru's blessing, because he blessed him. Because
Krishna Kun has a comment.
Sorry. The fact that Gopakumar was not satisfied at those places is by his Gurudev's blessings. Because Jayanta, who is Krishna himself, coming to him in the form of Guru, blessed him with 3 blessings. And the last blessing, the most important blessing I feel, was that may you always have the mood, the mentality to relish the fruit of the mantra that I gave you. So that mantra is a Gopal mantra, so he's not going to be satisfied anywhere else, because the proper mood to relish that fruit of that mantra is only in Vrindavan. Sorry.
Wow, what a very, very nice comment. So this is Gaura-līlā. We're not interested in liberation. We'll keep taking birth after birth until we get it right. Until we just want to serve the Lord. And it doesn't make a difference for a devotee whether he's liberated or not, because they're already liberated. Liberation is said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, mukti tucha phala hoy namabasa hoiti, that even someone who chants namabas like a jamil, that's the very cheap fruit. Liberation is a very cheap fruit of that namabas. We don't want namabas. Who cares about nam? We want Krishna prem. This is the topmost thing. Okay, so we'll stop there. It's very late. Thank you all for listening today. And tomorrow we'll also be here. We'll go on to the next verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Saturday we'll be here. We won't be here tomorrow. As you might have understood something, a little secret from when we had a comment just a minute ago that there was something else being discussed here in the house yesterday. There's something else going on in these other days which we're not allowed to talk about. But I can't say that. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vanchakalpatarubhischa, Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo.